Now I continue today in 1 Timothy chapter number 3, and we've made it down to verse number 7. On the program yesterday, I dealt with the first part of the verse. Moreover, he must have a good report of them that are without. He must have a good report of them that are without. This is the 17th of the qualifications of the bishop. They are identified beginning at verse number 2. A bishop then must be, number 1, blameless. Number 2, the husband of one wife. Number 3, vigilant. Number 4, sober. Number 5, of good behavior. Number 6, given to hospitality. Number 7, apt to teach. Number 8, not given to wine. Number 9, no striker. Number 10, not greedy of filthy lucre. Number 11, patient. 12, not a brawler. 13, not covetous. 14, one that ruleth well his own house. 15, having his children in subjection with all gravity. 16, not a novice. 17, moreover, he must have a good report of them that are without. Now, as we have developed this scripture, you and I have noticed that there are several of these qualifications that are so identified with an explanation. For instance, in verse number 4, number 14, one that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. And there's a reason stated in the passage why God has made that requirement. Verse number 5, parenthesis, for if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of God? A man that does not have his small children in subjection, if his children are out of control, that are in subjection to him and under his roof, then he would never be able to govern and care for the things in the house of God. I think it's a reflection that he's not paying attention and not observant. The matter of ruling his house, I pointed out to you a few weeks ago, I have to pay the bills. I have to sit at my desk. I have to write checks. I have to make sure that my outgo does not exceed my income, lest my upkeep become my downfall. And I understand that I have bills I'm going to have to pay. The power bill is going to come in. The phone bill is going to come in. The taxes are going to be due at the end of the year. And I have to remember, I have to understand that those bills will come and I have to pay them. And that is part of a man ruling his house, guiding and directing his house. And then in verse number 6, the 16th qualification, not a novice, and there's a reason given for that. A novice is not necessarily one that is young, but rather one that is new. A 50-year-old man only saved for a year is much more of a novice than a 30-year-old young man that has been in the church, been saved for 20 years, and been in the church all of his life. I would not consider the 30-year-old man to be a novice. I would consider the 50-year-old man to be a novice. Certainly, the 30-year-old man is young, but the 50-year-old man is new. And being a novice is being new to something. The reason this prohibition is given, lest being lifted up with pride, he fall into the condemnation of the devil. Then, the 7th of these, and I dealt with this on yesterday, moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without. This word report carries the idea of a reputation. Now, all of us have a reputation. Some man said one time, I have no reputation. No, that is not true. All of us have a reputation. Some reputations are better than others. Some reputations are bad. Other reputations are not good. But all of us have a reputation. And this area of reputation of those that are without is given in the text that it must be a good reputation. Now, a man can build and develop a good reputation by paying his bills on time, by being honest on his job, by working 40 hours for 40 hours pay, for his word being his bond. If a man tells you he'll be there or tells you he'll do something, indeed he does that. And if for some reason he's providentially hindered, he will let you know that he's been providentially hindered and is unable to be there and unable to have part. He is to be of a good report to them, of them that are without. Now, there's a reason for this. And the reason this requirement is made of those in the world. Now, someone might protest and say, well, the world has nothing to do with our church. And it's none of the world's business who we might call. It's none of the world's business what man we might elect to be our pastor. But the requirement here is that in the world, he is to have a good report of them which are without, them which are on the outside of the church. That would be identified as the world. Now, a man that is not of a good report of them that are without, there's a reason for that. If a man is not paid his bills on time, if a man is not a good neighbor, if a man is a brawler and starts an argument everywhere he goes, a man that is a divider of men, a man that is a troublemaker, he must have a good report of them that are without. Your testimony and my testimony should be such that every businessman in the town you live in would like to do business with you. Those of you that are Christian business owners, you own a business. It should be your purpose to have such a testimony and such a reputation in the town you live in that every banker would want to have your accounts, and that every business house and wholesale house would want to have your accounts because they know you will pay. I have striven to have that kind of reputation with the Bright Spot Hour. And I think over the years that I've had the opportunity of laboring with the radio, I trust the Lord that we've been able to build that kind of testimony and that kind of reputation, that radio stations would much rather have us on than take us off. Moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without. Now, there's a reason for this, and the reason this requirement is given, he must have a good report of them which are without, is lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. Lest he fall into reproach. Now, that's an interesting word used by the translators. The word fall carries the idea of something coming unexpectedly. We were not expecting this to happen. Now, those of us that live in this life should well understand that we live in a very uncertain world. And the only thing certain about this world we live in is the uncertainty of the world we live in. And you may get the idea that I've got it licked now. I'm on top of the heap. I'm at the top of the mountain, and everything's going to be fine from here on out. Job, one of the greatest men in the Bible, and a righteous man, and a wealthy man, and in a day's time lost everything he had. I mean, everything he had, including his 10 children. He lost his health, and he lost the confidence of his wife. His wife looked at him and said, "You'd be better off dead than alive. Curse God and die." I think a man could handle just about anything as long as he had the confidence and the support of his wife. But Job even lost the confidence of his wife. In a day's time, everything Job had was gone. Everything Job had was gone in a moment of time. Now, you and I need to understand that you and I can fall unexpectedly into things that we had no idea would compass us. You get a bad diagnosis from the doctor. The doctor says you have cancer, you have some other terminal disease, and there's nothing I can do to help you. And there's not a surgeon in America that can help you. That's what they told my dad. And when they found cancer in my dad, the surgeon said, you need to set your house in order because you're not long for this world. I can't help you. And nobody in America can help you. And that came upon my dad in a moment of time, for something to come unexpectedly. You think you're on a gravy train. You think things are rolling right along. And then all of a sudden, out of the blind comes the reproach and the snare of the devil. And that's what the text states. Lest he fall unexpectedly into the reproach and the snare of the devil. This matter of reproach, the reproach of the devil, carries the idea of something that is shameful, something that is disgraceful, something that is filled with infamy. You and I need to be very careful and understand that what I do today may come back to be a blessing or a curse to me tomorrow. What I say on the Bright Spot Hour today may come back to visit me a year from now, either as a blessing or as a scourge. Everything you and I do today, the law of sowing and reaping, everything I sow today will come up. It'll come up as gold, silver, precious stones, or it'll come up as wood, hay, and stubble. But it will come up. This area of reproach is to become an object of contempt. It is to be scorned with derision. How can a man stand in the pulpit and preach to his congregation that they should be honest and truthful, and yet that man has been dishonest with his creditors and dishonest with paying his bills? Can you imagine the reproach that would come upon a congregation if the pastor's car was repossessed, or his house went into foreclosure, or his power was turned off, or the power meter in the side of his house was removed, or his water was cut off because he hadn't paid his bills? Wouldn't it be a terrible and reproachful thing to try to go get a loan from the bank and the pastor be told, your credit is so bad, no one in this bank, no lending institution will lend you any money? It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. Moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without. And the reason he must have a good report of them which are without is lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. Lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. The snare is to become entrapped, to be captured by a thing. We make snares to catch rabbits and to catch birds in flight and to catch other animals. They become ensnared. We drop a net into the water to ensnare fish, to catch a draft of fish. And so a man can become entangled. A man can be brought into perplexity by the things that he has sown. Be a terrible thing for the pastor, an embarrassing thing for the pastor, and an embarrassing thing for the congregation. For the pastor to recognize, because he doesn't have a good report of them that are without, that he becomes a reproach to the congregation he stands before, and becomes ensnared by the devil before the very congregation to whom he preaches. What a terrible, terrible thing that would be.
Correspondence to the Bright Spot Hour, Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina 29602. This